Pangulong Arroyo is now making her way from the PLLO. It will take her roughly about 5 minutes more or less para makarating dito sa ating main session hall ng Batasan. Kasama ng Pangulong Arroyo itong mga ilang kasapi ng Kongreso. Kabilang na sila Congresswoman Clavel Martinez ng Cebu. Kasama rin si Senador Francis Kiko Pangilinan, Senador Manny Villar at Senate President Pro Tempore Juan Flavier. Kasama rin ang isa sa mga nasa oposisyon, mga bagong halal na kasapi ng Senado, itong si Jambi Madrigal. And if you can see, the President is wearing a pale yellow terno, which according to our sources in the palace, ito ay pag-aari pa ng kanyang ina ni Doña Eva. Ito ay isa na naman sa mga recycled gowns ng Pangulo. Ginamit noon ng kanyang ina. At ito naman ay medyo binago lang ng bahagya para naman sa ating SONA ngayon. Ito rin ay pagkakataon para sa mga bagong halal na mga kasapi ng Kongreso na makita sa kauna-unang pagkakataon at mapakinggan din itong SONA ni Pangulong Arroyo. Itong speech ng Pangulong Arroyo ay inaasahang magiging mas maigsi kumpara sa mga naging SONA noon. Mahigit kumulang 30 minutos tinatayang aabutin itong SONA ng Pangulo. At ito, naririnig na itong palakpakan as she enters the main session hall with Congresswoman Clavel Martinez and Congresswoman Dina Abad of Batanes. As you can see, our members of both houses have already taken their seats and now making their way,
Arroyo.
making way for the arrival of President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo as she enters the main session hall. Itong tema ng kanyang SONA sa pagkakataong ito ay putting people first in an era of change and national unity. Nandyan ang liderato ng dalawang kapulungan na kaninang umaga lamang ay naihalal ng kanilang mga respective members. Kung ating gugunitain, ito ang SONA ng Pangulong Arroyo mula nang siya ay manumpa bilang ika-14 na pinuno ng ating bansa. Nung kanyang naging unang SONA, inilihad niya ang kanyang programa laban sa kahirapan. Ang ikalawang SONA, narinig natin sa unang pagkakataon itong terminong Strong Republic, at ang kanyang ikatlong SONA, iginiit ang mga naunang programa upang isulong ang kaunlaran ng ating ekonomiya, gayon din ang pagsusulong ng reforma sa ating lipunan. At ngayong ika-4 na SONA, pero kauna-unahan mula nang siya ihalal, marinig natin ang paglalahad muli ng plano ng Pangulong Arroyo sa kanyang 6 na taong pamumuno.
On the part of the Senate, the joint session is called to order.
On the part of the House of Representatives, the joint session is called to order. Please rise for the singing of the Philippine National Anthem. Please remain standing for the nation's prayer.
Poong may kapal, dakilang Ama, lumikha ng buong sangkalangitan, kayo na naghahari sa trono ng inyong biyaya, lubos kaming kumikilala sa inyong katapatan at kapangyarihang tukdin, ang inyong layunin sa sangkatauhan, kabilang ang para sa aming minamahal na bayan. Igawad ninyo ang higit na karunungan at katatagan sa aming mahal na Pangulong Gloria Macapagal Arroyo at sa aming mga kinatawan ng bayan na humihiling ng inyong pagkalinga at patnubay. Iwaksi po ninyo ang mga gawaing hindi tama at mga layunin at taliwas sa inyong mabuting kalooban. Tulungan po ninyo na maisulong ang katwiran at pagkakaisa upang maisakatuparan ang isang matatag at mapayapang republika. Bigyan po ninyo ng kalutasan ng kahirapan ng karamihan sa aming kababayan. Pagyamanin po ninyo ang mga gawaing magpapalaganap ng katarungan at magpapaunlad ng ekonomiya. Marugtog naming itinataas ang kalagayan ng aming bayan. Ibaling po ninyo ang inyong pandinig sa aming mga panawagan. Ito ang aming samot dalangin na may pag-asa sa inyong pangako. Mahabaging Diyos, mapagkalingang Panginoon ng sangkatauhan, ang pangyarihan. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Congress of the Philippines, Her Excellency Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, the President of the Republic of the Philippines.
Thank you, Speaker De Venecia. Vice President Noli de Castro, President Fidel Ramos, Senate President Drilon, Chief Justice Davide, and the Justices of the Supreme Court, honorable members of the Senate and the House of Representatives, His Excellency Archbishop Franco, and the Excellencies of the Diplomatic Corps, members of the Cabinet, commanders of the armed forces, officers and members of the Philippine National Police, fellow workers in government, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Angelo de la Cruz is home. We did it. Congratulations to the Filipino people. Sa makatwid, ipabatid sa lahat mula sa pook at panahong ito, sa bawat Pilipino, saan man naroroon. You have a government, indeed you have a country that cares. Your life is held more dearly than international acclaim. And you have a president who is your friend. Why was Angelo de la Cruz saved? because I stuck to my oath. Since I first became president in 2001, my declared foreign policy focus has been to protect the vital interests of the nation, including our 8 million overseas Filipinos. And I cannot apologize for being a protector of my people. The difference of a few weeks for a pull-out already decided on could not justify sacrifice of a human life. Sacrificing Angelo de la Cruz would have been a pointless provocation. It would have put the lives of 1.5 million Filipinos in the Middle East at risk by making them part of the war. Wars are for combatants. As I speak, soldiers are being held hostage by communist insurgents, but they don't expect to be released except by the compassion of their captors or a military operation. We've been fighting the longest-running communist insurgency in history. We've been coming to grips with fundamentalist terrorism long before 9/11. As the leader of the nation, I say, in behalf of the people, of the Filipino people to the world, we are strong and principled believers in democracy. 4 generations of Filipinos, of fighting Filipinos, have ceaselessly struggled against totalitarians and terrorists for our freedom, for the freedom of our people and the people of the world. We have fought the enemy and taken as good as we gave, not from a safe distance, but in close quarters. Bataan and Corregidor, Korea and Vietnam, East Timor, Kosovo, Liberia, to name a few. When I opted to save Angelo de la Cruz, I was reflecting whether one life should be sacrificed for no pressing reason or saved by accelerating an ongoing pull-out. I did not sacrifice policy to save a human life. I applied policy for that purpose. The Philippines has no policy that demands sacrifice of human lives. Ask yourselves this: if Angelo de la Cruz had been sacrificed, what would change for the better in Iraq today? Having saved one Filipino from a painful and pointless death, we must seize the unity we attained to improve our government and save our economy. Pinapangako ko ang isang bagong direksyon, mamamayan muna. Ang taong bayan, ang pinakamalaki nating yaman, ngunit madalas, kaunti lang ang atensyon na binibigay sa kanilang pag-unlad. Di tuloy matawid ang agwat ng mayaman at mahirap. Di tuloy mapaabot sa lahat ang biyaya ng demokrasya. I want to create economic opportunity at home and abroad. I don't want just one or the other. I want both. but I can only do it. It can only be done with focus, with energy, and with a common purpose to do that which still lies within our power. Put our economic house back in working order. Put it back in order before it finds itself beyond hope of repair and doomed to share the fate of failed nations. We've made a head start in the last 3 years. We must take bolder steps forward in the next 6. Inflation is under control. The ordinary housewife has been buying her rice and fish at stable prices. New investments, foreign and better yet domestic, were made. 3 million more of our people found jobs in the last 3 years compared to 500,000 in the 3 years before that. Malaki ang pag-unlad sa pangunahing pangangailangan: malinis na tubig, health insurance, tirahan, paaralan, aklat. We beat down crime. We're breaking up the drug and kidnapping syndicates. We're mopping up the stragglers. The people are safer in the streets, in their homes, and in their places of work. Every government in the world is at war with its own corruption. We've made lifestyle checks a lethal weapon and adopted procurement reforms to take the fight forward. Thanks to many of you, I emerged from the last election with more votes than any previous president. As a further sign of the people's overwhelming support, they gave me a huge majority in Congress and a huge majority among the local governments. This is a new day with a new direction and renewed confidence in what we can achieve together. I'm determined to prove that this tremendous show of faith and confidence is well deserved. The season of bitter partisanship is over. The season of service is upon us all. Majority, minority, opposition, administration. In my inaugural address, I laid down a 10-point agenda for the next 6 years. Not utopia, but something practical we can achieve and accomplish on time. What I did promise was that my term would be the irreversible turning point. Ipinangangako ko, iiwanan na natin ang ligalig at alinlangan. At the end of my term, the question will no longer be whether we can compete, but where else in the world shall we take an indisputable competitive advantage. The next 6 years, we hope, is when we finally get things right. Is there something about that goal we cannot all agree on? Is there a reason we cannot all work together? All that's needed is to clear away a couple of obstacles, as I intend to do with 5 key reform packages. 1, job creation through economic growth. 2, anti-corruption through good government. 3, social justice and basic needs. 4, education and youth opportunity. And 5th, energy independence and savings. Tough decisions will have to be made. It's going to be tough love from here on. It must be tougher on those who've had it easy than on those who've had it tough already. Humarap din sa problema ang makaratig bansa. Ang kanilang sekreto ay pagkakaisa ng mamamayan, suporta sa liderato at sakripisyo ng bawat isa. We must bear the pain and share the pain to enjoy the gain together. Those with more must sacrifice more. Those with less are already living lives of self-sacrifice. Maraming magsasabi, matagal na silang nagsasakripisyo. Ngunit, hinihingi ko sa inyo, konti pang sakripisyo. We must wait with patience for the reforms to work. In the meantime, we must work more productively because world competition is keen and we want the jobs not only to come, but to stay. Our most urgent problem is the budget deficit. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but chronic deficits are always bad. Sometimes stamping out deficits too vigorously can slow down growth, but ignoring them can kill the economy. It sends the wrong signal that we don't understand our fiscal predicament and will not help ourselves. This will drive away investments, exacerbate the deficit, and hurt job growth. Chronic deficits drastically reduce government's ability to make those infrastructure investments that business needs to grow and create jobs. Chronic deficits mean undertaking less social services that private charity will never provide, but without which social war is inevitable. This is a surefire formula for national failure. So, we must raise revenues, expand government services, yet cut costs, all at the same time. It boils down to right priorities. The beauty of the fiscal problem is that all the solutions are known, though applying the right ones is tricky. All the solutions require toughness on the part of government, cooperation on the part of business, patience on the part of our people, and active support on the part of Congress. All the solutions require profound, even personal changes. Politicians will need to focus on the job at hand rather than on their prospect of re-election. The worst offender, yet the hardest to pin down, is corporate corruption. Businessmen must adopt an attitude of tax acceptance, not tax avoidance. They must stop trying to outrun the tax collector. They must recognize that only a fiscally stronger government can create a more congenial business environment, greater security, a more congenial business environment, greater security, better infrastructure, cheaper credit, more business. My administration will undertake reforms to raise or save 100 billion pesos. I ask Congress to pass 8 revenue measures that will collect 80 billion pesos more. Alam kong maaasahan ko ang mga mambabatas upang burahin ang deficit, upang ituloy ang magandang trabaho, at upang itaguyod ang saligan na matapat na gobyerno at malakas na ekonomiya. Investments in infrastructure and energy provide the greatest multiplier effect for growth and job creation. Pag maganda ang infrastruktura, gaya ng kalsada, tulay, pantalan, telepono, kuryente, maraming mamumuhunan. Maraming magkakaroon ng trabaho. We must achieve sufficient, efficient, cheap energy in the near term. We must be sure to have the capacity to meet the demands of a growing economy so as not to choke off growth when it comes and thereby lose the opportunities that may not come again. To this end, Napocor power generating plants and transmission lines must be privatized, but not in a fire sale. Delivering electricity to virtually an entire country as big as ours cannot possibly be worth nothing but the trouble of running it. Napocor's transmission systems will be sold on terms that recognize the lucrative monopoly of its transmission grid. I ask Congress to pass the Transco bill that already passed the House in the 12th Congress. Our investments in social justice and basic needs are as vital to our future as fiscal and macroeconomic reforms. A nation deeply divided will not stand, and it certainly will not move forward. Our nation is divided by social and economic fault lines. The tectonic plates may shift with unthinkable consequences. Some say that it's cheaper to die than to get well from an illness, that it's impossible to find clean water in this rainfall country, that in this modern day and age, part of the country still sits in darkness. This is a terrible waste and a terrible shame. Kaya, ang aking agenda para sa Maralita ay hanap buhay, reforma sa lupa, tubig, gamot at kuryente, pagtatanggol at kapangyarihan para sa mahina. In fact, we will now be able to bring clean water to the entire country because during my previous term, you, Congress, finally passed the Clean Water Act. Thank you for that. And because in my first days as president in 2001, I signed the Solid Waste Act. Thank you also for giving me that opportunity. and because we are reforesting our watersheds. The place to start now is livelihood for 10 million Filipinos. The growing industrial, service, and micro-enterprise sectors will take care of some. A thriving agribusiness sector will keep more in the countryside rather than burdening a Metro Manila that is already cracking under the weight of overpopulation. Land reform covers agrarian reform, urban land reform, and ancestral domain land reform. I ask Congress to qualify farmland as bank collateral and also to reform the system of urban land titles. Ang kapangyarihan ng taong bayan ay puso ng demokrasya. Dapat kasama sila sa paghugis ng kanilang kapalaran. Dadalhin ko ang aking mga reforma sa taong bayan. Ako'y magpapaliwanag, ako'y makikinig. I have shown that government does care, even for a single Filipino life. Now we must show that we care for the rest of the Filipino people, especially the weakest among us. To adapt the words of Adam Smith, to the information age, and I quote, "The greatest improvement in the productive powers of labor seems to have been the effects of a modern education." Unquote. Economists have exhausted the possibilities of the division of labor. The way further forward now is a better educated, more adaptable workforce. We need to start early, and we need to maintain the highest educational standards. I ask Congress to legislate an extra year of studies, not by adding a 5th year of high school, but by standardizing what is taught in the barangay daycare centers. To expand youth opportunity, we need to focus on technical and vocational education, on strengthening English, science, and technology, and love of country. As I said in my inaugural, it is not free markets, but patriotism that makes countries strong. There's a sense in which, as a society, we have failed the youth in their formative years, in growing up normally and productively, in getting a good education, in learning the habits of honesty and citizenship and civic discipline. I ask the educational system, the parents, the church, and pillars of the community to help shape a new culture of honesty, patriotism, respect, discipline, and service for young Filipinos. The roof cannot collapse when the value pillars of government and society are sound and strong. I fervently support the judicial reforms being carried out by our Supreme Court. I ask Congress for a law making the Ombudsman's function as effective as Hong Kong's Independent Commission Against Corruption. Bureaucratic corruption, with its numerous leakages, is bad. So is government incompetence. Unlike in the private sector, where the free market punishes mistakes, government incompetence punishes only the public. We have to tear away layers of inefficiency piled on by decades of political accommodation, redundancy in the national service, waste in local governments, and pointless procedures for getting done what isn't needed anyway to secure the public welfare. Just how does paying off the health inspector banish bacteria from a dirty kitchen? By definition, public services are what the private sector will not do except for a price the public cannot pay. Where the private sector can do it better and cheaper, government may have to step aside. But the watchwords are better and cheaper. Where privatization only spells public pillage, government will continue to do the work. But that's no reason to spare public services from the test of competitive performance. We will simplify procedures to eliminate fixers. We will downsize the government, motivate excess employees to become entrepreneurs, and increase the pay of a lean and mean bureaucracy. I've abolished 80 offices under the office of the President. I will abolish 30 more. I ask Congress to pass a law on government re-engineering with silver parachutes for redundant offices. Once we have proved to our people that we've done what we can within the present structure of government, we can move on to changing the system to one that enhances our freedom and flexibility to do more. I expect that next year, Congress will start considering the resolutions for charter change. No one has a monopoly on right ideas. I'm reaching out to all segments of society and all parties, be they with me or against me, to join me in those things that should be everyone's concern because they rise above politics to the level of patriotism. I do not want a honeymoon period after which we can forget the country and go after each other again. I want a marriage, not of convenience, but of conviction, across the spectrum of parties and groups, encompassing the range of intelligent, political, religious, and economic views. I want a marriage for at least the life of this Congress. I do not ask for unprincipled support because it will not hold. I do ask for an end to unprincipled obstructionism because that always succeeds in defeating our best efforts. Tunay nga na ang kahirapan at kawalan ng katarungan ang sagabal sa ating pag-unlad. Ngunit, ang mga nagsusulsul sa mahihirap para manggulo ang sumisira sa ating kinabukasan. So this must stop. We must put a stop to that. Every year, every president tells Congress that it's the last chance for meaningful change. This time, I will say it again, adding only that past presidents were right and that each time change doesn't happen, makes change harder and less likely to happen the next time around. The time for change is well past due. This time, let me say, let's just do it! Mabuhay ang Pilipino. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat. Mabuhay ang Pilipino. Mabuhay